All right, we are live. Walking to get my coffee right now. It's actually sunny here in Pittsburgh today, which is pretty cool. But we're going to experiment and see how this goes with the wind and whether or not my AirPods start picking up the wind and if these outside walks are going to work for us going into the colder months where it's a little more gray, a little more windy out. So walking to get my coffee before we go to the cemetery and get our walk in the cemetery. And so the idea behind these here is to have a little bit of a Q&A in the future going forward. Hopefully as more people join us and want to know some stuff about training and nutrition and lifestyle stuff. So I do have a couple topics we'll get started on today. The first thing I wanted to discuss was yesterday I made a post about going a full year without drinking any alcohol. As I mentioned in that post, I'd gone several times. Actually, the year before I had gone 11 months, and then I had a client who wanted me to go out to dinner with him because I was moving out here to Pittsburgh, and started giving me a hard time about not drinking with him. He had trouble with alcohol and felt that everyone needed to drink with him, but that's a different subject. I was drinking soda water, and he snuck and told our server to give me tequila and club soda, which should be illegal, by the way, for you to just give somebody alcohol that they didn't ask for, but what do I know? But yeah, so I was super pissed at him after that dinner, and then took some time off of just like drinking whenever I felt like it. But the point being, I've never had any issues with alcohol personally. I mean, obviously I've had nights where I've had issues with alcohol, but I myself have never really overindulged, I would say. There was a period during COVID where I was drinking almost every day, which could be or is considered alcoholism, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, it was just something to do. I feel like a lot of people had that issue during COVID. Consumption was way up. But anyways, background story with all that is because a lot of people have been reaching out saying, oh, congratulations, that's awesome. And I appreciate all of that for sure. Like, grateful that, you know, people find that inspiring. However, like I said, I have never had an issue with alcohol. There are people out there who are really, you know, doing their best and struggling with that and have been sober for a period of time and battle every day to stay sober. This is not that. And that's, I don't want to take anything away from those people who are truly like out there working at it. Mine's just a lifestyle choice. If anything, my greatest addiction is probably food. And, you know, I've made that clear already that alcohol was one of those things that just led me to eat more and more. Like, a night out with drinks meant that I got pizza afterwards, or I got ice cream, my two favorite things. And in this effort to clean up my health in all areas, mentally, physically, spiritually, it's just like getting rid of those toxins. And the more I thought about it, and the more I paid attention to how I felt after I was drinking, I realized that it really added zero value to my life. And you always have people, we'll say, like the social aspect, because it is so socially acceptable and it is such a huge part of our culture, particularly here in the United States. It's at holidays, it's at big events, You go out with your friends, you're having drinks with dinner, whatever it is. It's like in almost everything that we do. If anything, it's not culturally acceptable to just say, I don't drink. It's like people look at you sideways. But so, just sort of like fighting that fight of, hey, actually, I don't drink because I just choose not to. It's not that I have an issue with it, because of the way I feel, and the person that I want to be. And so I don't have anything wrong with those people that do drink alcohol. And, I can't say that I would never drink ever again. Like, I'm not making that promise to you or myself, because I don't have an issue with it. My friends, my family, they have drinks. We go out together, and it's not a tremendous issue. But I do think that there's positives to not drinking. Like I already mentioned, one being just it's less calories because you're consuming calories when you drink. It's makes less cravings for calories for me. What was really killing me is sometimes I would have one drink, I'd have one beer, and I'd be hungover for like 3 days. It would just ruin my weekend. Like, all I wanted to do was lay on the couch and be completely unproductive. Then I'd have other times where I'd push my limits and I'd have 4 cocktails, strong cocktails, and be fine the next day. And when it became such a roll of the dice, I just didn't want to play that game anymore. It wasn't a gamble that I was really willing to take for it to just suppress my productivity for the next day or even 2 days later. And then going back to the social aspect, like, it is so involved in social, but I felt that drinking actually made me less social. I'm a very antisocial, sort of introverted person to begin with. So it's challenging to get me talking. And when I'm in a big group with all my friends, I'm comfortable. I'm usually quiet. Like, if I'm comfortable, I'm quiet, and I just let other people speak, and I listen a lot. And that's enjoyable for me. That's actually what I like to do and I prefer to do. But when drinking, I just felt like I was even like less of myself. It was harder for me to be social and want to go and do things. Somebody says it's a discipline thing within itself. Getting my drinking under control was the best thing I've ever done. Exactly. I mean, it bleeds into all other areas of your life, right? Like, both on the positive and the negative side. It's like, if you make that decision to control, this goes for food too. If you can control what you put in your mouth, or let's say if you can control what you drink, then you can control all the other factors in your life. If you can't control what you consume, then really you have no control over yourself. Like I was saying, the social aspect of it, like, I just feel more of myself when I'm not drinking, and all my friends, my family, they respect that. And I actually like going out to the bar more now that I don't drink than I did before when I did consume alcohol, which was interesting, like, not something I was expecting, but it's definitely been a huge positive. And I love when people just order me a water. They're like, water over here for the big guy. Like, they already know. They don't bug me with it. So it's really only strangers that are going to look at you sideways and say, oh, you don't drink? Oh, you have a problem with alcohol? Or, oh, come on, it's just this one time. Like, you can have a drink. You can have one drink. It's like, those are the type of people that I don't really want to be around anymore in my life anyway. So that's just easy to figure out who your friends are. I'm going to walk in here real quick and order this coffee. Hopefully it's not too crazy crowded in here. So bear with me for a second. Good morning. May I have a nitro cold brew, please? Just a large.
Black?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. So that was a rough experiment to see if it was feasible for me to actually go get my coffee while on live. I'll probably say less than ideal with the awkward silence. So I'll probably just go get my coffee first from now on. Yin's, local coffee spot. Best nitro cold brew out there on the market. So I wanted to say that about my alcohol post and my relationship with alcohol. Is like, I appreciate everybody reaching out and giving support, but I'm not a hero by any means. And, I think there's people out there who could use the encouragement and the support a little bit more than me. But if it is inspiring to somebody to take that, like, sober curious is what people are calling it, the sober curious journey, then by all means, it's been nothing but positive for me on my pursuit of general health and wellness. So the one other thing I wanted to talk about is something that came to mind is intentionality, and specifically intentionality with our weight training, our resistance training. I find it interesting that a lot of times when I demonstrate exercises for clients, they sort of laugh to themselves, and I'll say, why is that funny? And they're like, I know that weight is nothing for you. Like, you're using 5 or 10 pound dumbbells. I know that weight is nothing for you, but you make it look so intense, like it's actually hard for you. And my response is yes, because I do make it hard for myself. It doesn't matter if I'm grabbing 5 pound dumbbells or 50 pound dumbbells or deadlifting 500 pounds. I put the same amount of intention behind everything that I do. And I think that goes for all areas of life, but specifically we're talking about in weight training, is that there's so many people that walk into a gym and say, whatever their prescription is for their exercise. All right, I've got 3x10, the classic 3x10. I go in, I do 10 reps with 10 pound dumbbells. Maybe it felt light. I'll go up to 12 and a half or 15, and I'm sort of just going through the motions, right? Like, technically you did the exercise and technically you did what was prescribed, but where was the intensity behind that? Where was the intention behind the exercise? And when I demonstrate, and also when I perform any exercise myself, like I said, I am treating that exercise like it's a 1 rep max. It doesn't matter if it's a 10 pound dumbbell or a 100 pound dumbbell. It doesn't matter if it's a 10 rep set or a 1 rep set. I'm going to go in that with the same amount of intention and try and create the same amount of force as I would either way. Now, a piece of that is, this is the key takeaway probably, or the starting point to that is, every exercise is a total body exercise. I don't care if you're doing freaking dumbbell curls. What are your feet doing? What's your core doing? What are your abs doing? What are your glutes doing? Everything should be paid attention to with absolute detail. And that's not to be nitpicky, it's just awareness. And with that awareness brings intentionality. So again, going back to my example of some of the people that I see in the gym, or even some of the people I start working out with, it's like, what are your hips doing while you're doing lateral raises? If your hips are doing the hula hoop while you're doing your lateral raises, then that tells me that you're not focusing on anything except for trying to muscle those weights up. And it's not always with just weights that are too heavy. I see people doing the hula hoop with lateral raises even when it's just like super light. So the starting point, I think, should be just developing awareness around what the rest of your body is doing while you're doing a certain exercise. The best example of this, or where it's most obvious, I would say, is the bench press. And, bros love the bench press. I love the bench press. So it's easy to point out, why do you do bench press? Oh, I do bench press for chest, right? Get stronger, big bench. Okay, well, an easy way as a power lifter, every power lifter knows this, an easy way to cheat the system and just move more weight to get stronger is to use leg drive. Your foot placement matters, okay? What you're doing with your legs matter. You're bracing throughout your core. You see some power lifters wear a belt while they bench press. Seemingly to the naked eye, like that would do nothing, have zero carryover. But if you're actually using your core and you're bracing against that belt, you're creating more tension from your feet all the way up through your body, out your arms, out the weight, and that's what's moving the weight with intentionality. Easy way to get your bench press max to go up almost instantly. All right, where was I? Bench press. So that rule goes for everything. It's every exercise should be treated like a total body exercise. It's an easy way to form a lot more tension. I would say big buzzword around the industry right now is mechanical tension. For a long time, we talked about time under tension. There's been a few more recent studies that say mechanical tension has a greater effect on hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is what we call growing the size of the muscle, right? So how are we creating that mechanical tension? Well, going back to the bicep curl example, if I have a 5-pound dumbbell, it's light for me, but if I squeeze the heck out of that dumbbell, I can certainly start to make that into, create more mechanical tension. Now, it's probably not going to get me where I need to be because it's just not creating enough mechanical tension, but that's an easy example of that intentionality behind those. Got a couple people on here now. Do you guys have any questions, any Q&A around either? Can start with my story with alcohol, or something around the intentionality, specifically intentionality around lifting weights. You just had some more people join. All right, no questions yet. So I don't know when I learned that concept. I don't think anyone ever taught me that. It's just something that I sort of picked up on early in my training career. And it's why I'll say, like, I'm a technician when it comes to technique on exercises. I mean, my technique is nearly flawless, I dare say. It's a big statement, but I dare say my technique is flawless on all the big exercises. I was never super duper strong. I mean, most of my powerlifting career, I competed at either 236 or 242, and was never like super strong in the squat, bench press, or deadlift. Won a few local meets. The most I ever squatted in competition was 518. My bench always sucked. If you go look at my records, I literally bench pressed 352 pounds at every single meet that I ever did. Now in the gym, I always got stronger, could always do more, but I always got called on bench for stupid stuff. And then my biggest deadlift was 612 pounds. So at 242 pounds or 236 pounds, those aren't super impressive numbers. Definitely above average, but I say all that to say, I've never been super strong, but just the years and years of both lifting and coaching has really made me keen as to what technique and what exercises should look like. And I think a lot of that intentionality comes from the 17 years now that I've coached, as to just make this exercise as productive as humanly possible. But yeah, so this is a good first run here. Got my coffee. We're going to encourage people in the future to grab their coffee and walk with me as well as we get into the colder months. And we'll keep experimenting with this. But for today, I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to finish my walk and finish my coffee. So thank you to those of you who did join. We appreciate you. Until next time, peace.